Hey y'all, and welcome back to No Longer Allowed with Kristen. Today we are talking about limiting beliefs, the ones that were instilled in us at a very young age, the ones we picked up in adulthood, and the ones we still believe today, even when we have evidence that proves they're not even true. Do you remember being a kid and really wanting to do something, and your parents just kind of said, that's just not something that we do? You're too shy for that. We're not putting you out there. I have a personal story about this, and I can laugh about it now because I can only imagine if I really partaked in this. But I remember being in fifth grade, and it was the year that you could be in the middle school band. And I really wanted to play the flute. And why did I want to play the flute? I don't know. It just sounded kind of cool to me at the time. And I remember telling my mom, like, I want to join the band and I want to play the flute. And she said, "Oh, Kristen, we are not musical people." And she didn't sign me up for the band. But the funny thing is, she comes from an entire family of musicians. But at that moment, I just believed it. I went on to believe my whole life that I just wasn't a musical person. And to this day, I genuinely have zero musical talent, none whatsoever. And then I went and married someone who does have musical talent. So it was a full circle moment, honestly. And it's not just parents that hand us limiting beliefs. These limiting beliefs come from every little thing throughout your life. I remember when I was 16, I had a boyfriend and I had told him that I was joining the powerlifting team at school. And he was like, no, girls don't lift weights like that. That is just for boys. And he was like, I'm going to break up with you if you join that team. And I was like, "Oh, okay, well," and then I didn't join the powerlifting team. And he broke up with me a week later anyways. But I just wish I wouldn't have let some rinky-dink high school boyfriend stop me from trying something new. But does that even matter now? Because now I am the trier of all new things. So I want to ask you, is there anything in your childhood you can think back to, a parent, a teacher, a family member, a boyfriend, who told you something like, that's just not how we are, or that's just not the kind of person you are, and you just went with it? You believed it, and maybe you still believe it today, or maybe you're just now starting to question it. Is this a story you've been telling yourself? So growing up in my house, we were told, go to college, get a good job, work towards saving for your retirement, make sure that you're contributing to Social Security, work until you can retire. There's no other way around it. That's just how life works. And there's nothing wrong with that life. Working a stable job and contributing to your retirement is a completely valid way to live. I just only knew that was it, nothing else. And that's where these limiting beliefs come in. I remember in 2017, Nate, who's my husband, he started a business. We had actually had booked a trip to Disney World, not knowing how the hell we were going to afford it because we had no extra money, but we were going to make it work. And he was kind of like, well, I kind of want to start this soft wash exterior home cleaning business. And he's like, I've been seeing this a lot around. I think I'm going to do that. And I was like, a business, whatever. I'm like, sure, go pressure wash the houses. I don't know. Just get us some money to go to Disney World. And so I still remember like the long days of watching YouTube videos of another man's channel who had started soft washing. And that was like literally our lives for like 6 months, was studying how to soft wash exterior of homes. And I just kind of blocked out everything. I just thought this was like a little side hustle and, like did not expect for it to be like our income for a good while. And after that, it took off. His business took off. We got to go on our Disney trip paid for. We didn't have to put it all on the credit cards. And then 3 years later, he was actually able to quit his full-time job and he was able to just go all in on his business. And this was in the middle of COVID. We had just moved into this house that we're living in right now. And I remember thinking, how are we going to pay our bills? How is this going to even work? Like, this is a side hustle. And I even had somebody like come over to our house and they were like, I just don't understand how y'all are doing this. You're just a school nurse and he's cleaning the outside of houses. Like, how are y'all affording this house? And honestly, all she did was confirm the fear that I was living in from my own limiting beliefs. But his business did work. And he actually was able to sell it for a substantial profit in 2023. And even after all of that, I still wasn't fully convinced there was another way to live outside of a 9 to 5. The beliefs was just so deeply embedded into me. Work full time, contribute to retirement. That's the only path, and that is it. And I had a limiting belief that I was not cut out for business. No, like I was not. That was not for me. And I just completely blocked out Nate's business as well. And I blocked it out so hard that I didn't even realize his business made over 7 figures in like a short amount of time. I had no idea. I thought it was a side hustle. And that's because I've been told my whole life that I was not a business person. So some limiting beliefs that I've heard from other people just in passing conversations is like, I'm not confident enough to be on camera for my business, and my life isn't really that interesting. And that last one actually is something that I've put on myself too, wondering why I'm showing up on social media when my life is honestly pretty mundane. But there's something beautiful in the ordinary, and people want to see those moments. Another limiting belief that I sometimes tell myself is I have no self-control. And that's one I've struggled with for a long time. Like, put a basket of chips at me in a Mexican restaurant, and hell yeah, I'm about to eat all those chips. But I went in with that belief before I even walked into the restaurant that I was going to eat all those chips. So, of course, it's going to happen. Or I struggle to make this successful. You're already putting doubt on yourself before you even start. You've decided it's going to be hard before you've given it a real chance. I was asking people for this episode about their limiting beliefs, and someone who actually owns a successful business herself told me that she has a belief that she'll struggle to make her business fully successful. And I told her, you already have the evidence that contradicts that. And I think that's the real issue for a lot of us. We're not acknowledging limiting beliefs. We're actively looking for evidence that supports them instead of looking for evidence that disproves them. So where do these limiting beliefs actually come from? A lot of times they start when we're so young, like the flute story. The belief that the only way to live is to get a job, contribute to retirement, and that's it. Nobody in my family had a business background. So why would I even go after one? I think even said out loud at some point, I'll never own my business. That's just not me. And it's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's something as small as what we say about our kids in front of other people. I do this with my son sometimes, and I'll say like, oh, don't mind him, he's just shy. And I've started recognizing that when I say that, I'm literally handing him the evidence. He needs to believe that he is shy. Then when he's in public or around new people, he becomes exactly what I told everyone he was. It starts that early. And I've talked about this before, but my nursing professor, he compared me to my peers in my very first semester of nursing school. And I had to go 4 more semesters with that same group of people he had compared me to. And I had to carry that feeling the entire time and felt like I always had to try to prove myself, or I stepped back a little bit because I felt like I had that limiting belief that I did not compare to them anyways. So when you think about your own limiting beliefs, or maybe you're just now realizing from this episode that you've been telling yourself these stories for so long, you don't even see how much they've been limiting your full potential. I want you to sit with a few things. Have you ever noticed yourself playing small? And if you really think about it, did it actually cost you something? Like, not anything dramatically, but just like quietly. Did you stay on the sidelines when you wanted to stand up for something you really believed in? Were you in a meeting with something burning inside of you that you really wanted to say, but the story kicked in? I'm too shy for this. Nobody's going to like my idea anyway. So you just didn't say it. How many opportunities have you talked yourself out of before you even tried? Because you had already written the story and believed it before you gave yourself a chance. Are there any relationships or connections you've avoided because you assumed people wouldn't want to hear from you? That little nudge of, I should reach out to that friend that I haven't talked to in 3 years. But then the doubt creeps in. Am I going to bother her? Is she even going to answer? Will I seem rude for disappearing this long? Just do it. What's the worst that could happen? She doesn't respond? Or she replies and says, oh, I've actually been thinking about you too. Sometimes I wonder what my life would actually look like if I hadn't absorbed some of those beliefs from childhood. the "we don't do that," the "you're too shy for that," and that's just not who we are. And how much energy have you spent proving a limiting belief right, instead of spending the same energy proving it wrong? These are the things I want you to sit with today. And one thing I do work with my clients is naming these limiting beliefs, reframing them, and starting to rewire the brain to understand that belief was never actually true. It starts with surfacing the story, getting specific about what belief actually is and where it came from. Then we move into reframing it, taking that old belief and rewriting it into a new truth, something that's actually backed by evidence from your own life. And then we close it out with a declaration, something you can say to yourself and physically anchor into your body. So it's not just an idea anymore, it's something you actually feel. It's a small process, but it's powerful because once you can name the belief, you can finally start questioning it instead of just living inside of it. Okay, so always from every episode, there's 3 things that I always want you to take away. So number 1, limiting beliefs are not facts. They're stories someone handed you, often without even meaning to, and you believed them before you were old enough to question them. Number 2, you are most likely searching for evidence that supports your limiting beliefs instead of evidence that contradicts it. Start flipping that. Look for proof that you are capable, not proof that you're not. And number 3, naming the belief is the first step into breaking it. You cannot rewrite a story you never actually looked at clearly. I want y'all in my world, and so I'm trying to find ways to invite people into my world in different ways and all of that. And right now we are signing up for the 10-day shift, and we're about 3 weeks away from launching that and starting it. So if you've been on the fence, now's the time. It's my free challenge group, and it's exactly the kind of intentional awareness work that helps you start recognizing these self-limiting beliefs you've been carrying. If you want to get on the list, DM me shift on Instagram and I can get you signed up for that. But I also want to spend a little bit more time today on talking about my one-on-one coaching for this episode specifically because of the limiting beliefs. And I actually have my own coach. She's a business and she's a life coach. And here's what I've learned with working with her. She helps me with strategy for sure. But more than that, she helps me with my life. Because here's the truth. If you don't have your life together, if you're still feeding yourself the same old stories, even a successful business or a career is going to feel very hard to run. And you can have all the strategy in the world, but if you're operating from limiting beliefs, if you're carrying old stories about who you are and what you are capable of, that's going to show up in your business too. And that's exactly what I do with my one-on-one clients. I'm not just helping you build a better routine or set better boundaries. I'm helping you elevate your entire life. Because when your life is in alignment, your business runs better. When you can show up fully in every area of your life, everything gets better. Your relationships, your energy, your work. If you're a high achieving woman, whether that's in business or your career, but you've recognized some of what I've talked about in yourself today, my one-on-one is for you. You can message me on Instagram and we can chat about that and see if it is a right fit for you. So as always, thank y'all so much for being here. If it hit home, share it with someone because that is how we grow. I am Kristen Falgoust. This is No Longer Allowed. And believe in the small stories we were told about who we are, that is no longer allowed. And I'll see y'all in the next episode.